I had a friend who sold burnt DVD discs, burning discs of certain kid shows. At the time, nobody else knew how to burn discs, so he took advantage of this. Of course, it was illegal, but it was crafty for him and knew how to avoid getting caught. It was also his only income, so I think it was excusable considering that he needed to eat dinner as well. He uses a torrent to get all the episodes that he was requested, and then he would burn them and, of course, sell them up and down all over the town. One day, I had gotten a call from him. I could tell by the tone of his voice that he was in a bad mood. He told me to come right away and visit him. I made it to his house by riding my bike there, since it was a short distance. I knocked on the door. He answered, and he looked happy to see me with a pat in the back. He was relieved that I was here to his place, and he told me that he had been requested to torrent the complete series of Bluey. Apparently, he told me that he had found a mysterious episode, and I should watch it right away. At first I laughed because who would watch a little kid show from Australia? If you don't know, the show's about an anthropomorphic 6-year-old blue heeler puppy named Bluey, often the title of the show, who is characterized by her abundance of energy, imagination, and curiosity about the world. Well, kids may like the show. Not only that, but adults like the show because of how the show has humor in it. But the thing is, my friend was very desperate. I knew he was not going to let me leave till I watched this one episode. So I figured, okay, I have enough time. I can just watch one episode and then that's it. So my friend began to play the episode. The episode began normally with the Bluey house, or known as the healer's home. But inside the house, there was no sign of Bluey's mom, Chili, and Bingo in the episode, which makes it an episode non-canon since they were absent and nowhere to be seen throughout the episode. Just Bluey, all by herself. Bluey is trying to open a door that she sees. After a few seconds of trying to open a door that she saw, her dad, Bandit Healer, shows up and has a strict look on his face. He begins to scold Bluey, telling her that she should never go into that room. Considering what Bluey had done in the past and seeing Bluey's father this angry, it was surprising to see him like this. Bluey then begins to say, and storms off. The scene transitions to Bluey sitting on her bed. She looks unhappy. Now, I thought this episode would have an important moral that would teach children not to invade our people's things without permission. I mean, after all, it is a good moral, right? However, Bluey begins to get curious. She was starting to think about what was going on in that mysterious room besides the door, and she should check it out and see what's in there, as it was something only a younger healer could think of. But eventually, her curiosity gets the better of her, and decides to sneak into the forbidden room. Bluey checks to see if her dad is around, and then she finally enters the room. At this point, my friend got up and paused the video. He told me he needed to use the restroom, and I could finish the episode by myself. Of course, I agreed. After all, he had already seen it, so there is no spoilers. Bluey is finally in the room, but her mood immediately changes into shock. Stapled onto the walls were various drawings, all of Bluey, but they were of her getting tortured in some sick way. In one picture, she was being run over by a truck. The other picture showed her being stabbed to death with her head chopped off and getting attacked by some crossbow. Bluey was shown being sliced into tiny pieces, getting stung to death by angry bees, freezing to death with frostbite marks on her. I mean, all of these horrifying pictures were just brutal. But there was one final picture that was probably the most horrifying and disturbing of them all. It was Bandit killing her with the axe. Bluey knew what this room was for. It was where her dad could peacefully bin all of his frustrations by drawing them out. Bluey was a punching bag to her dad, or else her dad had hated her this whole time. Bluey is obviously traumatized by this. She can't handle all this, and she begins to cry, which made Bandit, who now enters the room. Bluey's dad is upset by the intrusion. He tells Bluey that she should have never seen this, and how she was never meant to be here. Bluey didn't respond to her dad. She didn't say anything and starts to become pale, stayed silent, with no words coming out of her mouth. Immediately, the screen then changes to Bluey, who is seen hanging from a string in her room. The episode ended there abruptly, with no credits. When the nightmare was over, I left the room, only to hear crying coming from the bathroom. He may have been an adult, but he couldn't handle the episode and its content like I could. I mean, I've seen a lot of weird shit, so I was used to it. I still didn't expect any of that to ever appear, especially for a kid's show. I waited for a while to see if he would calm down, but his sobbing would only get worser than worse the longer I stayed. I decided it was time to go home, so I left a note on his kitchen table. My friend continued his operation afterwards of selling burnt discs. Eventually, though, he did retire because he had gotten a good paying job, a job that paid him more than what he was doing best. Till this day, he has never brought up that episode, and I don't intend to bring it up because I'm worried he'll go into a huge breakdown. Those images, I get the feeling, those disturbing images, they are still burned into his head to this day.